Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our weekly news video. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope you've had a wonderful week. So, what have we got to talk about today? Well, it's a bit of a quicker one for us this week, but we've got general stuff about Renault again with their engines and actually how the whole Renault engine stuff has come to pass and how really it is for the benefit of Ferrari. We'll also be talking about the Audi engine as well. We had a little insight on that this week. And we're going to have a look at the proposed rookie race as well. A little bit on Liam Lawson and his new race number. And also a lot of news around the feeder series for next year. So all of that and more to come in the video this morning. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe, of course. And a huge shout out to our members, the Joyous James, Dakota, Robin Myers, and Cinnamon Strudel there. There we go. That's all we got to cover this week, I think. So before we do get into it, though, the new video went out on the channel yesterday about Nigel Mansell. He had an auction of all of his stuff from his museum, and we look at what's in there. There's some really quite wacky stuff that he has there, and some other stuff he's like, why would you... Oh, there's my alarm going off, everyone. It's been a bit of a chaotic morning, and I'll tell you as for why. In about an hour or so, I am leaving Wrexham Town to head down to the big city of London Town. I'm going to see the F1 Experience Museum thing. I'm going to see that later on this weekend. So it's been a bit of a hectic morning to get all that stuff, get all packed and ready, film this video, and then go out and into the world. So if it's a bit all over the place, that's as for why. You can hopefully expect a video on the F1 Experience on Friday here on the channel. So all that's to come. So we talk about some bloody news then. Let's start with Renault, because they have officially confirmed that they will not be building power units for the regulations F1 is introducing in 2026. Therefore, Alpine will need an engine supplier, and the rumour very much is that it will go to Mercedes. So we basically knew this already. We've been speaking about this for weeks, but it's been now confirmed that Renault will not be making engines officially. We still wait for confirmation on them going to Mercedes, but that is where we stand at the minute. But we have been given a little bit of insight into behind the scenes as to why this has happened. So several reasons contributed to Alpine's decision to move away from the Renault power unit. However, financial constrictions were the most significant. The Enstone-based operation is no longer willing to invest the money necessary to sustain an engine program. Therefore, taking power units from another team is seen as a more financially sensible option. Despite this, Renault's engine development was working diligently on their 2026 engine until last week. It is even understood that Renault employees were exceeding the targets set for their engine department. In short, performance was not the primary cause of Alpine's choice. This is relevant for rival teams on the grid who will be eager to bolster their own technical squads with engineers from Renault. So, a bit more to get into on this, but I thought just interrupt it there quickly, just to make a few points here. So, what I find very interesting is it looks like the Renault engine was actually quite good, if this is to be believed. They were hitting their targets, they were on track for this engine to be delivered in 2026 and for it to be relatively competitive, whatever a competitive standard is for Renault. And of course, they don't know where everyone else is in terms of their engines. So it seems like Renault were doing quite well. The reason they want to stop is money. Now, a lot is spoken about with money in terms of the Renault team because they are a government-owned team, or at least partially owned by the French government. So they can't be seen to be investing a ludicrous amount of money into things because, you know, that is the tax money of the French people. So, they can't be seen to be investing millions and millions and millions into an F1 engine if they're not investing millions and millions and millions into education or health or whatever it might be. So the balance of finance in the Renault team is always going to be under scrutiny, basically more than any other team. So the reason to not be continuing their engine is from a financial point of view. But to me, to make that decision now makes very little sense and goes to show the kind of revolving door that Renault truly is. Because we know that the head of the Renault F1 team changes every few weeks. But if you truly want to save money and you're looking at it from a point of view of, this engine is costing us a lot of money, why would you stop now? I mean, I don't know how long it takes to build an engine, but I would think if you're building an F1 engine for 2026, by now you are pretty far down that developmental route. You've probably got something quite considerable, which has cost a lot of money. So why are they doing it now? They've probably already spent millions upon millions upon millions on this engine to get it to this point. Why not just carry on a little bit more? If they'd come out at the start when the regulations were announced, said, right, we're not making one. We don't think it's financially viable. We will take an engine from someone else. Then I'd go, oh, well, it's a bit sad, but I understand why they've done that because, they want to save a bit of money. Why invest millions in developing an engine that will never be seen and then go, oh, yeah, it was for financial reasons? It's like the people on Grand Designs who invest millions upon millions in building a house and then, 2 years later the house isn't finished, so they just go, oh, we're just going to quit. It's like, no, you've invested millions, you've invested years of your life, see it through. I know it's going to cost a lot, but you've got to see this through at this point. It's a bit mad. And the thing that shocks me the most is it sounds like the Renault engine was actually good. When was the last time a Renault engine was good? You've got to go back to 2013? It's been almost a decade since a Renault engine was good. So it's to be in this position here where it sounds like, if this is to be believed, Renault were finally making a step forward in terms of performance, and someone at Renault's gone, bloody hell, we can't have that. And they've stopped it. So now what they've done is they've invested millions in building an engine, then they've gone, oh, this isn't financially viable, let's stop, and now spend millions on buying an engine off someone else. So they spent more than any other customer team will on an engine. It's madness, but that is Renault. But there is one big gainer from all of this Renault rubbish, and that is Ferrari. Because everyone's favourite team principal, I think, at the minute is Frederic Vasseur, because he is wonderful. And you may be forgiven for forgetting that Frederic Vasseur, at one point, was the Renault team principal. And you may have forgotten that because the Renault team principal changes every few days. But at one point, it was Big Bad Fred. And Frederic Vasseur knows some of these engineers and thinks that they're quite good. And the reason you know that he thinks they're quite good is he's now hired them for Ferrari. In a recent interview, it was confirmed that Ferrari have reached agreements with former Renault personnel. Team principal Frederic Vasseur even managed to sign these engineers without gardening leave, meaning they can join the factory in Maranello relatively soon. Not only will these technicians and engineers increase the size of Ferrari's workforce, but they can now provide valuable insights about their 2026 engine. After all, the Renault power unit could have incurred solutions and ideas that Ferrari has not yet considered. So what Renault have done here, invested millions into an engine that seems like it's actually quite good, then gone, here you go Ferrari, have all our secrets. It's the most Renault thing they've ever done, but it looks good for Ferrari. Like it says in that article there, these Renault guys can now just walk into Ferrari immediately. And now you have two teams who have been massively funded to work on these engines, and you've just got two of them going, okay, well, we found this. Oh, yeah, we found this. And they can hopefully combine it to make the super engine for Ferrari coming into 2026. And, we know how important getting these engine regulations are. We saw it with Mercedes when they had those big changes with the engine regulations in 2014. Mercedes were massively ahead of the rest of the field from the start and basically was able to dominate, the next 6 years of Formula One because of their engine regulations. I mean, it's important to get this right. Now, only time will tell as to how important these engine regulations will be, because there's also aero regulations that will change coming in 2026 as well, so who knows, it'll be 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever it might be. But if it turns out that the engine is the huge deciding factor as to who wins races, who wins championships, Ferrari look like they might be in a good position, which is good news if you are a Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton fan going forward. Bad news, though, potentially, if you're a fan of Nico Hülkenberg and whoever will be in the second seat there, because the Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber team will become the Audi team in 2026, and Mattia Binotto, who is the team principal of that team now, has said that Audi will be behind other engine manufacturers in 2026. He expects Audi will have a gap to recover in terms of horsepower. The question will be the size of their deficit. So, big news there for Audi. This does seem to be a story that kind of appears every few weeks for the Audi team at the minute, of like, oh, they're not doing well, oh, they're rubbish, oh, they're so far behind. And who knows what to believe realistically with that. Maybe they are behind, maybe they're not. I know a lot of people expect Audi to just turn up and be this fantastic team from the off. Personally, I don't. I think they'll be a midfield team for quite some time, really. And, they're making an F1 engine for the first time ever. I know the Audi company will have lots of experience in making engines, but, making an F1 engine is maybe a little bit different. So I'm not surprised that they feel that they're behind. But again, they don't really know where everyone else is. They can have guesses of where, like, Mercedes are and Ferrari and Honda and Red Bull, Ford, or whatever they're calling their engines now. But they don't truly know. So is this a bit of a kind of play from Binotto to go, oh, don't get your hopes up, then they turn up and they're good, or are they really struggling? We already have to find out in 2 years' time, so let's wait and see. Right, last week, you may have remembered I was talking about the proposed rookie test to take place after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Well, don't get your hopes up, because it will now not go ahead. The FIA have announced that timing and organisational constraints were the reason for the concept not going forward. The race will be discussed for a 2025 debut. I mean, it was quite a quick turnaround to try and get that to go ahead, so I'm not too surprised that it isn't going to happen. But yeah, I still think it's a very good idea. I'd like to see it with 20 cars next year. And you know what? If we're going to do it, I think you need to push it really hard. Get like a huge sponsor involved. Like call it the Coca-Cola Rookie Cup or something like that, And then, we can look like... If you watch my videos before on Didier Pironi and Tom Price, in both of those videos, there is a bit where they feel like their career isn't going the way they want to in their junior career. And they both decide to take a risk and get involved in the Monaco Formula 3 race. Because at that time, in the early to late 70s, the Monaco Formula 3 race was the biggest feeder series race in the world. F2 didn't do Monaco, but F3 did. And if you look at like the Monaco Formula 3 results from like the 60s and 70s, and maybe even early 80s, that was a race where if a junior driver won it, their career got propelled. And we saw that with Tom Price and we saw that with Didier Pironi in those two videos that I did, where by winning that race, they immediately get the eyes of F1 and they're basically in a car the next year. I would like the F1 Rookie Cup, or whatever it's going to be called, to be a similar thing. I know that's what Formula 2 should be, but unfortunately that's not what Formula 2 is at the minute, because it doesn't really seem to matter if you win it or not, because of the whole feeder series thing. Well, the junior teams. So maybe in a world where we live in at the minute, where there are so many young driver teams and whatever it might be and sponsorships, maybe the idea of winning one race to protect yourself, maybe that doesn't work, but it'd be nice to live in a world where it did. That's what I'm saying. Right, who wants some driver number news? Now, I'm not sure if you've heard, but Liam Lawson's back in Formula 1, everybody. So we have some news on some driver numbers. So last year, he used the number 40. He is not using that number this year. This year, he's using the number 30. So here is some stats and history about the number 30 in Formula 1. The number 30 has been used by 108 drivers previously in Formula 1 history. Between 1993 and 1995, it was one of the numbers assigned to the Sauber team and was used by J.J. Leto and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The most recent appearance of the number 30... I'll say that again. The most recent appearance of number 30 was Jolyon Palmer, who had it as his race number between 2015 and 2017. Palmer has the record for the most amount of uses of the number 30 with 50 races. The number 30 has won a race twice. Firstly, with Piero Tarnuffi for Ferrari at the 1952 Swiss Grand Prix, and then Dan Gurney at the 1962 French Grand Prix. A grand total of 9 Formula 1 world champions have used the number 30 at some point in their career. They are Emerson Fittipaldi, Jack Brabham, Jody Scheckter, Jackie Stewart, Denny Hulme, Juan Manuel Fangio, Jochen Rindt, Graham Hill, and Alan Jones. There you go, that's everything you need to know about the number 30. Best of luck to Liam Lawson using that number for the rest of the season. So, a bit of news now, here, there and everywhere, about young drivers and feeder series and the next big names in Formula 1, where they are right now. Because there's a huge one here about a certain man in the McLaren Junior program whose name I've never said out loud before and only ever seen written down. So here we go. Apologies already for the mispronunciation of the name of Ugo Ugochukwu. I tried my best. After competing in Formula 4 and FRECA, he will move to Formula 3 next year with the Prema team. He's been part of the McLaren Junior team since its reintroduction in 2021. He is an American fella. He has been the big kind of junior name for McLaren for quite a long time. As I said, the McLaren Junior team, after Lando Norris went into Formula 1, it kind of just disappeared for a long time. And it was only brought back in 2021. And I remember at the time there was only 3 names in the McLaren Junior team. I think it was Alex Palou, Pato O'Ward, so 2 established IndyCar drivers were in their junior team. And the other name was Ugo Ugochukwu. I'm sorry again. But he was in karting at the time. And it was just, he stood out to me the most. Because, the other 2 weren't really junior drivers. And he was a true junior driver. So he's a guy who's had McLaren's backing now for 3 years. Finally will make his appearance in Formula 3 next year with a team like Prema, who have had tremendous success in Formula 3. So definitely want to watch this time next year. Well, this time next year, Formula 3 will be over. But next year, in terms of Formula 3, talking about F1 Academy very quickly, because Chloe Chambers, who is one of my favourites in F1 Academy. I mean, personally, when you look at F1 Academy, obviously Abby Pulling is out and out the best there so far. Dorian Pan, I think, as well, is another name who is also fantastic. And I know on a day he's on the level of Abby Pulling, but day to day is a little bit below. I think those 2 are on a pedestal at the very top of F1 Academy. You have names like Maya Verg as well, who is very good, but I think Chloe Chambers is the most exciting for me. There's been many races in F1 Academy this year where I have come back and said that Chloe Chambers was the star of the race because I think she is something very special. She currently drives for the Haas team in F1 Academy, but next year she will not because she has become the first confirmed F1 Academy driver of 2025 and she has joined with Ford and joins the Red Bull Ford Academy. She will also drive in the Red Bull Ford livery for the first time this weekend as she competes in the IMSA Mustang Challenge at the SRO Indianapolis 8 Hour, presented by AWS. What a load of sponsorships that is. But yeah, huge news for Chloe Chambers. Firstly, she's staying in F1 Academy for next year, which is fantastic, so I think she's great. But secondly, moving away from that Haas team and now in the eyes of Red Bull as well. So she's impressed someone at Red Bull. Hopefully this means a great thing for her career as well. I think she is fantastic, and hopefully she'll thrive from there. But last bit of news here, and it's another bit of feeder series news, and it's about Lewis Sharp. So he has had back-to-back championships in British Formula 4 and GB3 as well, and he will also be making his debut in Formula 3 next year. I've forgotten to write down who it was with, but I think it was Rodin. Oh, I'm going to have to Google it now. Rodin F3 news. Where are we? Yes, it was Rodin Motorsports. He will join them next year to make his debut in Formula 3. I mean, he's had a fantastic career so far, so let's see how it continues. They haven't had the best season this year. I'm just going to double check where they are in the standings. I don't think they're in the same kind of position as Prema are, where Prema are doing fantastically well. So Rodin are currently 8th in the championship. It's not going too great for them. So hopefully he can turn it around. We'll wait and see. But who have they got on board at the minute for Rodin? Voisin, Wisnicki and Joseph Loke. So one of them is gone, to be replaced by Lewis Sharp. So best of luck to him. Hopefully he can do well. As I said, we'll be back later this week on Friday for all things F1 experience, hopefully. If I remember to record and it looks good and we have a good time, it'll be here for you. As for that, we'll be back next Saturday for all things news. And then the week after that, F1's back, so there's no need to worry. Make sure you watch that Nigel Mansell video. I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Goodbye.